How's it going, everybody? Thanks again for joining Tankers Fantasy Football. We're going to talk about Week 10 here. We're going to give you some good waiver wire action as well as maybe some tough matchups and some good matchups here this week.
Oh yeah, we're all the way into Week 10 here, and oh my fuck, how do we even get this far? We're going to get into some Week 10 waiver wire ads to lead it off here. Oh, Eli Rogers. I mean, my goodness, what's going on? I mean, Antonio Brown is clearly the number one in Pittsburgh. But then you got Marcus Wheaton, who was a healthy scratch last Sunday. I mean, my fuck, Marcus Wheaton. This guy was like an up-and-comer, maybe a mid-round hero, people thought, beginning of the year. Now he's like dusting the fucking wind. And Sammy Coates has just had 1.4 PPR points in his last 3 games. I mean, that is Wolf City. I mean, Darius Hayward-Bay went down with what appears to be a serious injury.
Yeah, Eli, he had a couple games to start the year, and last week he caught, 8 balls for over 100 yards?
He caught 6 of 10 targets for 103 yards last week. I mean, in PPR realms, that is getting it fucking done for you out there. And I know he's on a majority of waiver wires. I think he only had like 35 or 40 PPR points coming into last week, so you should be able to go out there and swoop this guy up pretty easily. Let's get into another, what are we talking about? Another maybe tight end. Zach Ertz, kind of from the depths of the sea, went out there and had himself a hell of a game last week.
We talked about these Eagles, so many mouths to feed. Well, they got rid of one mouth and Huff getting arrested. And, you know, Zach Ertz, I mean, he could be that boy for Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz has been struggling lately, but maybe he just needs that safety blanket that Dak Prescott's got and a guy like Witten who lost his mind last week.
I mean, where's that one fuck boy I was playing for? Oh, here we go. Yeah, if you're talking about deep leagues, talking about Eagles offense, Aguilar's a piece of trash. I think we all know that. But I mean, a guy like Bryce Treggs, and I don't even know who the fuck I just talked about, but Bryce Treggs, I mean, if you're in deeper leagues, I think even Bryce Treggs might be worth a look because of, I mean, they're playing the Falcons this week, and the Falcons be giving it up them fantasy points to wide receivers through the air. And, I mean, if you're all in, you needed somebody for God's sakes anything. I mean, my goodness, you got absolutely nothing.
You literally have to have nothing.
Yeah, literally have to have fucking nothing. But, I mean, Bryce Treggs could be your boy. Jesus Christ. I don't even know how that's even possible.
Let's talk about a guy who actually might do something.
All right.
James Starks, he's looking like he's going to be back this week, and if so, Eddie Lacy obviously out for the year. Ty Montgomery's had a couple disappointing games. One game missed because of illness. But James Starks suddenly, I mean, this guy could be talking solid RB2 for you.
I mean, it might take a week or two to really get into form out there. I mean, my God. I mean, they clearly have no other options. I mean, they're kind of going away from the whole Ty Montgomery thing, even though he started that game with a pretty good run last week. But, I mean, if they can get anything out of James Starks, I mean, you got to think this guy's going in there looking to get 80 to 90% of the snaps at running back if he's healthy. I mean, my God, the Packers got absolutely fucking nobody out there. I mean, if you used to tote the ball in high school, the Packers might have gave you a phone call these last couple of weeks. It's goddamn awful. We got another Lance Kendricks, tight end. If you're needing it, if you're in 2 tight end leagues, he might be your boy. Had a decent week last week. I mean, I'm kind of a hater, but I guess, get about it. And another up-and-comer, I mean, Capri Bibbs up there in Denver.
Kind of killing Booker in some garbage time. Booker really has not looked that good at all. I think he's only averaging about 2.5 yards a carry the past 2 starts here.
I mean, that catch and run Bibbs had was sexy boy deluxe out there. I was like, geez. I mean, I know this is probably a running back by committee moving forward, but I think if anything, Bibbs is totally taking a major hit in Devontae Booker's stock moving forward.
Yeah, I think at worst he's a guy you can pick up and stash if you're in a 20 deep league. I mean, I don't see why you couldn't stash this guy away.
Another running back coming off injury that might still be on your waiver wires, and Dion Lewis, and might be another guy that's a wait and see for a couple weeks to see if you can get at him. But I mean, if you're hurting for certain at RB2 and RB3 running back or situation out there, this guy's totally worth a look for if he's still on your waivers.
Yeah, and I think if you got James White, I think you got to be thinking time to sell. Get what you can.
Oh, yeah, James White, his time in the fantasy PPR realm relevance is about come to an end here, people. Oh, yeah, another guy who might still be on your waiver wires because of bye weeks, and J.J. Nelson. And if you're fucking getting down, and if you're looking for a wide receiver 3 play this week, and they're playing them Niners who just vomit up yardage all day, it doesn't even matter what fucking...
Doesn't even matter the position.
No. And, you know, I mean, John Brown's done for the year. Michael Floyd appears to be a piece of shit. And if you're talking about, I mean, even Larry Fitzgerald's having a little bit of an ankle problem, and it's looking like John Brown and J.J. Nelson might be the most healthy wide receivers on the field for the Cardinals this week. And if that's the case, I think they're both all system go wide receiver 3 plays. Well, we got moving forward another Bumsky. I mean, this guy's only good until damn Doug Martin. I don't even know why we're saying his name. I guess Peyton Barber, if you really need, like, absolutely desperately need some, but.
And this is going to be kind of what Jacquizz Rodgers was a few weeks ago. He's just basically going to be pure workload. Hopefully he gets in the end zone. I think they're still looking like he's going to be the workhorse, going to be touching it minimum 15 to 18 times. So if Doug Martin's out, this guy is a decent play for you out there.
And in Baltimore, Terrence West has been kind of on the, you know, a couple weeks ago we were kind of toting the line on Terrence West, and he does have kind of a prime matchup this week against Cleveland on Thursday night. But Kenneth Dixon, I know he didn't really do anything either last week, toting the Brock like 17 times for 13 yards, but my God, at some point you think the Ravens got to go out there and see what they can get out of Kenneth Dixon, because these last few games, Terrence West has been under that 2-point yards per carry, looking like filth puke garbage.
And another running back, not the flashiest of picks, kind of touchdown dependent, but a guy in Chris Ivory who should have had a touchdown last week, but apparently it was a fumble.
I think he really got had. I really do. We were watching that game, and I was convinced that Chris Ivory got the ball over the end zone got the ball over that line before he lost control of it. And I think the fix was in on the poor Jags last week.
He had a really good other run where they're on their own goal line and flat out trucking this guy, running right over him. He's looking good. New offensive coordinator. They're actually doing some misdirection type runs, and if he's available on a lot of waivers and leagues there.
And we're talking about, I mean, this guy, I know if someone to say his name and you're going to say, what the fuck are you talking about, word? We're talking about Rashard Matthews, and I'm going to tell you something that might blow your goddamn mind. Rashard Matthews has averaged 14.2 PPR points in the last 6 weeks. What the fuck did I just say? Yes, 14.2 PPR points the last 6 weeks. Rashard Matthews has averaged. If he's still on your waiver wires, I mean, moving forward, I think this guy is a solid wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4 play. I mean, my goodness, they clearly look for him in that red zone. Let's go, Rashard Matthews.
And my boy, we got C.J. Fedorowicz.
Fedorowicz from the depths of the sea. Sharing time with dick bums like Ryan Griffin.
Yeah, the bye week, so he's going to be available. He had a great matchup the previous week against Detroit, who just totally give it up to tight ends, but another good matchup this week here against the Jags.
I mean, if you're hurting for certain and your tight end option 1 is on bye week, I think C.J. Fedorowicz is kind of worth the look out there. Ooh, we got another guy who's kind of been, forgotten in the Seattle backfield of Thomas Rawls. If people lost faith on Thomas Rawls, and I mean, Christine Michael, people thought like 2 or 3 weeks ago he was going to take this job and just run it for the rest of the season, but this guy's gone out there and averaged 3.2 yards a carry over his last 5 games. I mean, that's not getting it done. CJ Procise outsnapped him last week. If anything, that's a sign. I mean, Thomas Rawls going to come back and maybe get some work out there if he looks good.
And even Russell Wilson took a goal line carry away from him, got in the end zone on a bootleg.
Well, the guy had 5 rushes for 1 yard and a touchdown. I mean, that's what we're talking about. See, Christine Michael had 5 rushes for a yard and a touchdown.
And he lost the goal line touch to Russell Wilson, who had as many rushing yards as Tom Brady going into the game.
I mean, if you're looking for a little playoff boost, if you're sneaking into your playoffs, I mean, Thomas Rawls might be a decent look-see for upcoming weeks, maybe like 12, 13, 14 action, if you're looking for a little boost-ski. What else we got? We're moving on. We're going. Let's hit into them matchups. Fuck it. Skip right into them matchups. We're going to start with some good running back matchups. And I know This first guy I'm going to talk about is a plug and play in David Johnson. And, if you play on Flea Flicker, Flea Flicker's PPR projections are just out of their goddamn mind. Everybody scores 3 or 4 touchdowns every fucking week. And they got David Johnson projected for 39.3 fantasy points. But I think Flea Flicker might be on point this week because David Johnson's playing against them
49ers.
Oh, my God, it's a Division III college unit out there. They're a bunch of shit bums. You just saw Dwayne. Oh, my God. What even happened, Niners? I mean, Ingram just, ran right at that safety last week, and he just took an angle. It was like me out there. It was like, woo. And Mark Ingram, of all people, scampered right by Tim Hightower and Mark Ingram both at
When's the last time Ingram had a 75-yard touch?
Come on, Niners. I mean, we're talking about Flea Flicker ever coming true with their outrageous, crazy projections. Can't even get the goddamn word out there. We're talking about their crazy projections. I think they might be on point with that 39 burger. I'm moving on to guys that might be a little bit more on the ropes for you. I know Jordan Howard had a good game before the bye, but he also has a very sexy matchup this week against Tampa, who are giving up 151 rush yards a game, baby.
And I think you can play any Bear you got. If you got Zach Miller, even if you're in a 2-quarterback league and you got Jay Cutler out there, if you got Alshon against this Tampa Bay defense, you throw them all out there.
I went to the waivers in one of our 12-team leagues. And I was like, I got a guy, I got luck on by. Maybe I can go up there and swoop some J-Rock. And he was already gone. I couldn't believe my eyes. I even searched for him. I was like, no way. No way some fucking guy picked up J-Rock. But they did, people. J-Rock is back up in that ass. With the resurrection. Oh, the Bears. All right, moving on to another running back that, made basically a plug and play now. We're talking about Jay Ajayi. And he had 2 200-yard games in a row, and then he had another 100-yard game, so that puts him at 3 games in a row over 100 yards.
There's only been, 2 other backs?
2 other backs this year that have done that, and David Johnson has 3 in a row, and Ezekiel Elliott has 4 in a row, 100-yard plus rushing games in there. I mean, that's some good fucking company to be keeping out there, Jay Ajayi. I mean, my goodness.
I mean, this is crazy, but we could be talking back-end RB1, Jay Ajayi down the stretch.
I mean, the guy has 529 yards and 4 touchdowns in the last 3 games. I mean, get it done, babe. Even against that Jeff Stout front,
the Jets front 7?
Stout top front 7 out there. He went out there and grinded, and it looked like he was going to kind of, muster in the, 10, 15 carries for 25 yards. In that fourth quarter, he kind of wore him down and busted off a couple big 20, 30-yard bursts out there. I love him. I really do. If you don't like a Jay Ajayi, then fuck off. You know what I'm saying?
You might win us some leagues.
My boy, goddammit.
Best keeper ever.
They all laughed at you, Ajayi. They all laughed at you, baby. Well, look at them now. All right. We got another. I know the Saints at home against the Broncos this week. And, the Broncos, people are thinking that's a tough defensive matchup, but not against that rush.
I mean, I think if you got Mark Ingram or Hightower, I think you got to at least consider them. I don't see why you couldn't. I mean, this Broncos rush defense is borderline bad. They're in the mid-20 rank against yards allowed.
They're giving them the 23rd most default PPR points to running backs. I mean, these guys are going to get their lion's share of the work. I mean, they're going to get a 50-50 split. And if you're hurting for an RB2, I think you can almost pencil in both of these guys to be putting up RB2 numbers anywhere from the 12 to 18 PPR points this week. I really do.
Yeah, it's going to be backfield by committee, who's going to the hot hand. But if you got either one, I think you can throw them in there with some confidence.
And like we said about Bibbs earlier, I mean, Booker and Bibbs have a pretty good matchup down in New Orleans against the Saints in that same game. So I think if you're looking to run out one of those two guys, I think, maybe Bibbs is more of maybe an RB3 kind of
if you're severely on bye week and you're desperate.
Kind of throw a dart and hope for the best and hope that he kind of,
Or a daily fantasy kind of guy, get him cheap.
If he somehow gets half them snaps, against them Saints, he's going to be easily an RB3. Getting some tough matchups for running backs. You're going to play you're going to play these first two dudes we talk about no matter what. But I'm just saying, temper a little bit of expectations out there. Melvin Gordon is playing Miami, who is tied for the second fewest fantasy points given up to running backs. I mean, but, fuck them. I don't think anybody, I don't really think.
He's amazing.
He's amazing. And he is. That's
He's a number one PPR running back.
Number
right
one
now.
PPR running back. I mean, I know he hasn't had his bye, and David Johnson has, but still in the conversation, baby. People were drafting this guy in the 6th, 7th, 8th round. I mean, he's winning you money.
I mean, who would have thought this guy's going to get 20 touchdowns? Because it's easily very likely.
I don't see how it doesn't happen. Barring injury, I really don't see how it doesn't happen. He's ripping it up out there.
We've been talking LaDainian Tomlinson part 2.
And, another guy, DeMarco Murray. Green Bay's giving up the second fewest scrimmage yards to running backs, but there's no goddamn way you're benching Murray, especially with Derrick Henry having an RBI. So this is clearly DeMarco. I mean, if you weren't convinced this is DeMarco Murray's backfield before, it definitely is DeMarco Murray's backfield now.
Yeah, he definitely got it going second half there, maybe even into some garbage time, but he's stud all around.
Stud. I mean, super stud deluxe, RB1, number 3 PPR running back. I mean, moving forward, he's another draft steal, winning you money. All right, we go into the Crow. I mean, I think the Crow might be a sit.
Like we've said, we don't like the Thursday matchups, but going against Baltimore, they play their AFC North opponents very tough. You look at Pittsburgh.
They shut down Le'Veon Bell on the ground. I mean, he salvaged his day in PPR by getting them catches, but they were shut him down. They're giving up the 3rd fewest default fantasy points in PPR to running backs, and I mean, I think the Crow is a sit if you got any other viable options this week. What do you think out there? And Spencer Ware coming off that concussion. But he has a tough matchup going into Carolina, who are are giving up the 5th fewest PPR points to running backs. They are. And I mean, coming off the concussions, I know you kind of need him, and you've been kind of leaning on him, especially Charles West. Charkandrick West didn't really do much for you. So I think, easily moving forward, Spencer Ware is the workhorse of this backfield. But I don't know. I might temper expectations this week. We got another tough matchup, and with Garrett Blount going against Seattle, who's giving up the 2nd fewest touchdowns to running backs, and that's how Garrett Blount eats. I mean, if Garrett Blount's not getting in the end zone, Garrett Blount's not getting it done for you, and Seattle's giving up the 2nd fewest touchdowns to running backs, so I don't know. I mean, I might bench Garrett Blount. I know that's a really tough pill to swallow because he's been your sexy fucking boy.
Another guy, we kind of touched on him earlier, a tough game against Baltimore, but I think Le'Veon Bell's got another tough matchup this week. Facing Dallas, giving up the fewest fantasy points to running backs
fewest
this year?
PPR fantasy points to running backs this year. And I know you're going
to
start...
Who would have thought the Cowboys D could do that?
I was amazed when I looked it up myself, and I know you're not going to bench Le'Veon Bell, but I don't know. He's going to have another stout affair out there like he did last week. The Cowboys, giving up the fewest points in PPR to running backs. You might have to temper expectations. He might be more of a low-end RB1 than a high-end this week for sure. And Carlos Hyde, who knows if Carlos Hyde's going to play, but even if he does, he's playing against the Cardinals, who are giving up the fewest scrimmage yards to running backs. That's not sexy, so I think he's a definite sit.
All right, let's talk about some Let's talk about some receivers here.
Some good receiver matchup. Bust into it. What we got? Leaving up. We're going to give you a couple obvious plays just to tell you how good they're going to do for you, This is how I tell you how good they're going to do for you. And we're going to leave with Evans versus the Bears, of course, because, for fuck's sake, Bears. For fuck's sakes, he's going to murderize us. And another guy, AJ, and the Giants are giving up the most scrimmage yards to wide receivers, so expect AJ to just blow up a Winchell's out there for you this week.
No, 150 probably for you.
Verbatim. Whatever that means. All right. And we're getting to maybe some more bubble. We're getting some bubble action. Like we talked about earlier with the J.J. Nelson, the John Brown, and Larry Fitzgerald suits up this week with the ankle. I think it's all systems go against them Niners who are giving up the second most touchdowns to wide receivers, baby. I really do. All systems go. Everything Arizona this week.
Yeah,
all
definitely.
in. And Terrell Pryor, who was another guy who you got in the late round that's trying to win you money. And he might try to win. He might help you win your game this week too, because going against the Ravens, we're giving up the second most points in PPR to receivers this week, and he might blow up there and get out there and blow up for you Thursday night. I mean, Terrell Pryor's been a solid wide receiver. I mean, Jesus, we're not even talking about borderline wide receiver 1. It's insane. I know, but he is ranked that way.
And on the other side of the field, I really think the Baltimore Ravens have a good matchup too with receivers against this against this Cleveland secondary. If you got Mike Wallace, you even got old Steve out there.
Well, I think they're both solid wide receiver 3 plays. I mean, Steve might be more of the 4. But, I mean, Mike Wallace last week looking faster than I ever thought he still was in that big play.
Impressive catch and long catch for the touchdown.
Yeah, we might see actually get to see some more points on Thursday night like last week. The Ravens might go out there and light it up. And the Cleveland Browns, this just in, the Cleveland Browns have yet to give up a defensive touchdown. And you heard it here first.
And this just in,
that shit's going down.
And this just in, Donald Trump has more wins in Ohio than the Browns.
Donald Trump has more wins in Ohio than the Browns. Come on, Browns. They can't even spell dog pound right. You see that ass clownery? What are we doing, Browns? I mean, I like boozing at games too, but maybe you should taper it back a bit, Browns. You can't even put the right. You can't even put the right sign in the right section. My goodness, Browns. There was nobody that was like, wait a minute. Not a single motherfucker was like, wait a minute. Not one. It's crazy. All right. Then we got Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders going down to New Orleans, and the Saints are giving up them yards. Well, they're not really giving up them touchdowns. They're not. They're like fourth fewest touchdowns. Giving up the fourth fewest touchdowns in the league to wide receivers. I mean, I know
Demaryius kind of needs those touchdowns.
He does. More and more, he does need those touchdowns.
And a lot of it is not even these receivers, too. It's Trevor Siemian. I mean, the Denver Broncos are last in the league in third and outs. Or in 3 and outs. It's like 40% of their drives are 3 and outs.
That's just not getting it done. I mean, the Oakland Raiders are taking the helm of the AFC West, and I love it.
Just win, baby.
Just win, baby. All right, the Chiefs wide receivers have a great matchup this week. But, you know, who the fuck are they? So, I mean, if Macklin doesn't play, seriously, how can you feel confident in plugging and playing any of these dick bums?
Get a little Tyreek Hill out there.
I don't know. I toted that shit last week, but I'm off it now.
Maybe a little Kelsey, that's about it.
I'm over it. Yeah, Kelsey has a great matchup this week. I mean, absolutely.
Kelsey's about the only guy on KC receiving core that you can feel pretty good about.
And the Panthers are giving up the third most touchdowns to tight ends, and they're giving up the second most PPR points to tight ends. I mean, Kelsey's an all-systems go player this week. He is. And we got Michael Thomas and Cooks who are playing against the Broncos, who are giving up the least amount of points to wide receivers.
And Drew Brees has a new favorite target.
I mean, Michael Thomas is ranked 11th in PPR, and Brandon Cooks is ranked 12th. And that's reality. I mean, Michael Thomas is stealing this show, people. And if you were able
he's
to,
a much more consistent play, too.
Much more consistent for that 12 to 15 than Brandon Cooks. Brandon Cooks is either Brandon Cooks is all or nothing
28
kind of guy.
plus or less than 10.
Who else we got out there? What are we looking for? We got Diggs.
He got the catches last week.
He did. He didn't really get the yardage, but he got the catches. But the Redskins are surprisingly giving up the 6th fewest touchdowns to wide receivers. And I mean, if he doesn't continue to get those double-digit targets / receptions, I mean, I don't know. I mean, Diggs has gotten you 20-plus points these last 2 weeks in PPR. But old Diggsy, I mean, I think he's more of a wide receiver. Maybe more of a wide receiver 3-4 this week.
I was gonna say maybe top end wide receiver 3, but nothing more than that.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect that big. And Baldwin's playing against the Patriots. You know how the Patriots, they shut down those outside dudes pretty well. They're giving up the 5th fewest points to wide receivers out there. So if you got any other options, kind of steer clear of old Dougie Fresh.
Well, look out for Russell Wilson too. When it hits November and after, there's a switch that he can just turn on.
He did look a lot more spry.
He actually put up some good points last week.
If he
I
can
think it was
start running,
most of the season last week.
If he can start running around and getting out of the pocket, and these where he eats is those broken plays. And the next thing you know, he's connecting with Doug Baldwin 50 yards downfield like he did in his last game to set him up for that rushing touchdown he had. But if he can get back to his rushing ways and moving around in that pocket, I mean...
You look what he did last year. You drafted him. Many people got rid of him or even cut him. And whoever held on to him was winning him leagues. And this guy's ranked in the 20th in quarterbacks. And if you can get him dirt cheap, he might not be a bad backup quarterback to stash away.
Oh, if somebody totally lost faith on him and cut bait on him, I'd totally go out there and try and swoop him up if I could. We got Allen Robinson playing at Houston, giving up the 2nd fewest points. I know you're probably going to play Allen Robinson, and I am too. But I don't know. I kind of, temper your expectations out there. Bust into maybe some good tight end plays. What do we got?
Got a little Delaney.
Delaney Walker. What we got? Him up 5th most yards, the tight ends. The Packers. That's who they're fucking playing, right? Am I losing my mind? Losing my mind out there, am I?
Packers.
It is the Packers. Yeah, it is the Packers. They're giving them the 5th most yards of tight end. So Delaney Walker's plus matchup out there. Dennis Pitta. Browns are giving up the most yards and default points to tight ends, and you saw what old Jason Witten was able to do out there.
Oh, 100-yard Jason Witten?
Jason Witten hasn't had a 100-fucking-yard game since 2013, people. The resurrection. The resurrection. If they can resurrect Jason Witten, I think they might be able to resurrect Dennis Pitta, too. I think Dennis Pitta's a start this week. All systems go against them shit Browns. All right, what else we got? Ertz. Falcons are giving up the 3rd most points to tight ends. Ertz came onto the scene last week. I think he might have another solid game this week. Feeling it. What we got?
And Jordan Reed, he's coming back here. Jordan Reed, he had the bye, but Vikings have yet to give up a touchdown to a tight end.
That's amazing.
I mean, the Purple Rain's doing it. But their defense has looked awfully vulnerable past 3 weeks or so. I think Jordan Reed, you can count for at least 12, 13 points anyway, just in catches and yards alone.
Don't sit him or anything crazy. You don't want to do that. That's crazy. Don't do that. We're just, and Olsen, who's playing against the Chiefs, who are giving up the 2nd fewest points to tight end. You're not going to sit him either. We're just kind of telling you so you're not upset when they don't go out there and score 25. We're just letting you know, a little premature. We got some quarterbacks Carson Wentz. And if you're hurting for a quarterback this week and you want a waiver wire slug play, and Carson Wentz playing against them Falcons are getting up the most touchdowns of quarterbacks. I think it's a very, very decent, solid quarterback 2 play this week. Maybe even if you're looking for a flyer and you need a guy, because you got Andrew Luck or something, and he's on bye, I think Carson Wentz might be your boy.
Eli Manning had a great game. What was it, 4 touchdowns last week for you? I mean, he's going against the Bengals, and they've given up the 5th most TDs so far this year.
Oh, yeah, Flacco. Oh, baby. Oh, Joe Cool. Joe Cool. All them Browns, I mean, these teams, sometimes sometimes you just got to start everybody you have against these teams. And I think Flacco...
Throw the backup kicker at them.
I mean, the Browns are giving up the 2nd most touchdowns of quarterbacks. And I don't know. I think if you're in Joe Cool and you're on the ropes between who to start, between Joe Cool and your other bumski, I think you got to lean old Joe.
Tough play. I mean,
of course,
Breeze against Denver. I think it's tough to sit Michael Thomas or Brandon Cooks, but you have to severely temper expectations.
Cousins playing in Purple Rain like we talked about. You know, he's kind of a bubble play, so I'd probably bench him this week. Along with Bortles, this is also another bubble play playing against them. Texans are giving up the second fewest passing yards and the third fewest touchdowns. I mean, that's not getting it done out there, Bortles. I mean, Bortles is kind of a hurting for a certain guy anyway, so if he's playing against a tough defense, I'd probably definitely lean toward the sit.
All right, I think that's it for this week's show here.
Did that do it?
Once again, thanks a lot for watching. Make sure to subscribe.
Me and the bear changed hats back.
Subscribe to our channel here on YouTube. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on the Twitter.
Oh, that Twitter, baby. I do hit you with some sexy plug and plays over the weekend to get you hot and bothered, baby.
Thanks a lot for watching. We'll catch you later.
Get it sexy.